In late 2021, the ATA put out the following press release on the Biden administration's vaccine mandate and how it would threaten the trucking industry and cripple the nation's supply chain. Can you elaborate more on those mandates, or even just the threat of those mandates, and how they impacted your industry and our supply chain?
Well, I'm quick to point out that the Trump administration, President Trump, Biden administration, President Biden, didn't create a global pandemic. Okay, you play the hand you're dealt. And, when you're trying to recover economically, you're trying to navigate the pitfalls of a pandemic like this, get people vaccinated, keep it from spreading, you don't make it worse. And this is an administration that well exceeded the statutory authority of the Occupational Safety and Health Act of 1970. OSHA does not have the authority to regulate vaccine mandates. So when this was put out, we joined another number of others in suing, took it through 2 federal district courts to the Supreme Court and got a 6-3 decision and bounced it because we knew they didn't have the authority. We knew this was semantics, that this wasn't going to solve the problem. Our drivers, by the way, throughout COVID, got in the truck and delivered everything that we need, including the vaccine, the PPE. We did that. You're welcome. You're welcome. So to put out a mandate for people that are getting in the cab, that are isolated largely from being exposed to COVID, and are keeping our economy glued together, had to be one of the most ridiculous policy ideas I've ever heard. And they deserve to get bounced in the Supreme Court, and we as an industry will continue to exercise our legal rights when we see it's warranted.
Well, I agree with you. It remains unclear if the border vaccine requirements for non-U.S. citizens coming to the United States is going to end on May 11th. The Canadian Trucking Alliance has said this mandate has affected thousands of unvaccinated truck drivers in Canada and Mexico by preventing them from entering the United States. If the Biden administration's border vaccine requirements remain in place and truckers from Canada and Mexico remain unable to come to the United States, how will that affect our trucking industry and the supply chains throughout North America?
That's a dramatic impact. We're moving literally 73% of the USMCA freight. So we were supporting NAFTA and now USMCA. There isn't really anything that we don't eat, drink, or wear that doesn't come off a truck. There's a driver behind the wheel to make sure that happens. And yes, we rely on Canadian and Mexican drivers to support that, to support the supply chain. So these mandates matter, and it's really comes down to diplomacy. Work with your Canadian counterparts and your Mexican counterparts so that we can maintain seamless policies with respect to vaccinations that don't have an adverse impact on the economy. It's not that difficult, but we're not communicating with our counterparts. And that's a big problem where you have these disparities. It has a measurable impact on trade and the economy. And we're the ones to bear it as an industry. We feel it first before anybody else.
Seems like common sense. We appreciate all you do to represent Hoosier truck drivers. With that, Madam Chair, I yield back.